Where we going, boys?
We going Bigfoot hunting
up in Talladega National Forest.
Yeah. Yeah.
The legend of Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, he's been called many names, spans hundreds of years from coast to coast in America. Native American peoples here in Alabama had vivid tales of the creature long before white men ever walked these lands. Many hundreds of reported sightings in our great state reinforce tribal tales. Bigfoot and Jonathan Odom, the Bigfoot hunter, will have their place forever in Alabama lore and Alabama history. Join us today as we get up close and personal with Mr. Jonathan Odom.
What was your first experience with a Bigfoot?
My first experience with Bigfoot was with my dad. I grew up in Hamilton, Alabama, around Franklin County, Bear Creek Lakes up there. My first Bigfoot experience was that with my dad. We would come around the corner, we were fishing for rock bass, and there was one in the water. And he just sit there and looked at us, and we started coming parallel with it, and it got up and walked up the bank. And we didn't talk about it for years.
Oh, wow.
We really started doing this, and we started talking about it, and I think that's the strangest thing is we just didn't talk about it, But I find of all the people that I've interviewed, that happens quite a bit.
Right.
This last week, I took my 3,879th report for the Southeast. Just me personally,
Wow.
not the BFRO, and but it happens a lot with people. I don't know. I think with the moment they get freaked out and they forget about it or whatever.
Right.
So you sure you don't want to sit in there? So yeah, that was my first experience, and then my dad was a Pentecostal preacher, still is, and I just had a lot of paranormal stuff happen before. That's why I'm fixing to start doing a lot more paranormal on the channel.
Right.
I come across so many crazy places, and but yeah, that's how.
That's awesome.
That's
That's awesome. How many hours would you say in a week that you put in looking?
Golly. Well, I'm retired, so I spend. This summer was the first. I've spent about 31, 32. Before that, golly, before summer hit, I spent about 40 to 50 hours a week in the woods.
Oh,
and
wow.
When it's wintertime, my wife goes camping with me, so we'll go back real far and set up a camp for 2 days. This summer it's just, I'm tired because I've did a lot of hot summers.
Right.
And it's dangerous. I mean, there's snakes, there's big snakes, there's all, there's
Yes.
in Alabama, it's hot, and
Yes.
tree fall, and so probably about 30, 31 hours a week, and that's every day. I go out every day, a couple hours around the house,
Right.
Pill City, and then I kind of go out. I work different areas. I work this area a lot because a lot of the ones here are aggressive, and when I take y'all down, when I go look for my audio recorder, I'll take y'all down, and you'll see a lot of tree twist, which something that twists trees has to have hands.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you'll see high tree snaps. Work just a bunch of different cases all over. So yeah, this year, before COVID hit, I was probably about 40, 50 hours a week.
Wow.
And I thought with COVID, I'd be just out in the woods all the time. I don't put up a lot of bullshit on the channel anymore, and I just quit answering comments because everybody's always like, why don't you do this? Well, I'm the one out here in a pine thicket because there's some big rattlesnakes around.
Oh, yeah.
Tramps around in the woods, bushwhacking off trail. So I'm like, I don't care what you think. I mean, either watch the video or not.
Yes. So 11,000 subscribers.
Yep.
That's massive. That's amazing.
I mean, to me, it's just like, okay.
I know, but it's awesome. Like to like us, you know,
Well, you'll be there one day.
a goal of achieving something like that. So that's really cool. I've watched a lot of your stuff, and I love some of those places you shoot are just breathtaking. They're just gorgeous.
And you know what? God does the most beautiful work.
That's true.
There's a lot of people around here that sees the creatures. They just don't talk. The guy passed me a while ago. People will look at me and I think they recognize me,
Right.
and then they'll stop and they'll move on, and I'm like, okay. But this area here, this is a very. There's a mean one. Did you watch the one where I talked about the guy that got torn apart 4 different pieces?
I don't think I did.
It was in this camp right here.
Oh, wow.
It was actually up above. There was a guy about 30 years ago where this camp, y'all drive through,
Mm-hmm.
where this camp is. At the very top of it, there's a road going up, a forest road, so it goes to a green field. And there was a guy they found 30 years ago, the bottom of it, torn in 4 different pieces.
Oh, my word.
The head was off, one of the arms, one of the legs. But what was funny is there was bruising on the body, no teeth marks. So that happened right here.
Oh, wow.
So there's been a mean one for a long time. Hopefully he'll come out here tonight.
What could you tell us, like, your most crazy experience with a Bigfoot throughout your...
I mean, golly, I've had a lot.
Nothing really stands out in your mind?
There's one that's up around Sweetwater Lake, 529. Did you watch any of them with Bill and John in them?
I did.
Because they kind of went on retirement because it's just every week, Saturday. And
Right.
They don't have a life. I totally understand.
Right.
They'll come back. And we were at a place one time, it was Friday the 13th, I think it was 3 years ago, on 529. 529 has something there. And I think it's a Bigfoot. I don't know exactly what it is. It's a creature. And so we were going in there one night to put the audio recorders. And we heard it scream on a ridge. And we had separated, we had radios. And me and John had thought one of them, somebody had fell and broke their leg.
Oh, wow.
And this thing screamed and left us. And you could hear it on the audio recorder running through the woods. And it went to the top, and then it stood there and hollered. But probably the most scariest one, I was at the end of 529 up by Sweetwater Lake. And I'd locked the car. It was about 4 in the winter, and I went back like 6 miles to a certain place. And I kept noticing just odd things. Stick would break, pow, and I'd be looking, and I'd have my thermal. I'd take my thermal during the day, and I'd scan, and I never could really see anything. And this video is on YouTube. It's called The Charge. I think it's called The Charge. And I had one come off the ridge. It was a juvenile. It's the closest one's ever come to me. And it come real close, kept getting closer, and it wasn't trying to use any cover.
So you've actually physically seen...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen 8 or 9 of them. On thermal, I've seen 20 or 30 that I have never published, ever.
Oh, wow.
I'm at that point now, I don't need nobody to tell me the real. I've seen it.
Right.
And I saw the one with my dad.
Right.
But this one, so it was getting like this, and I had my light, and I kept seeing it, and he wasn't trying to hide.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I was 6 miles back.
Right.
He had the whole advantage on me. And he come, and this is all on video on YouTube. He come and was coming toward me, and I shot over his left shoulder. And he kept doing this right here to me. He come and advancing. And he come, and so I had my gun out, and I said, okay, one more. And that's where I used to carry a knife strapped right here. And he stepped and went, pow, right beside his, left, his left to me, his right. And he turned and took off. That was probably the most scared, because it took me about 40 minutes to get back to the truck. And then I got back to the truck, I had to lock my truck. I was like, shit. Because the whole time I'm walking, man, and I'm like, I'm checking, I'm double backing, I'm using my thermal, making sure he wasn't following me.
Right.
Because I'd never had one do that to me before. And the most scariest encounter that I ever had during the daytime was in that same area. I went to a place, and I went up in this cut, and there was a stream coming out, and I found little footprints like this big. 5 perfect toes, And when you see something like that, it kind of freaks you out because you know there ain't no baby out there running
No,
around the
no,
And that was about 3 or 4 miles back, and before I found the footprints, I'm filming. It was broad ass daylight. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, summer, hot as shit. And I heard my name, Jonathan. And it was like a sing song, Jonathan. And I'm like, got out the thermal because I use the thermal today. You can't hide from the thermal. That's why I use it. It's
Right.
tactically impossible.
Right.
Scanned. There was nothing there. And then I found the footprints. I was like, oh, shit, what is this? And so that experience has happened probably 10 or 12 times. And so I had a lady call me from Cherokee Indian Reservation. And she said, hey, I want to talk to you about what you were hearing. And it was little people. You know, have you ever heard of little people?
I don't think I have.
Like little bitty creatures like this.
Oh, wow.
Like a gnome, fairy, something like that.
Okay.
And since then, let me see, I found a bunch of footprints over here. If you go down this road, there's a cutoff that goes this other road.
See, that would definitely freak me out to find baby footprints on the
It's weird.
creek.
Now, this one was on the side of the road. Me and Terry found them, and there was a drain off, and
Oh,
it's just
wow.
like, it comes across the road, and it's just...
Where you know a baby wouldn't be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there ain't no baby out there walking around like that.
Yeah.
And so, around Horse Creek Cemetery, I actually saw one of them. He was on the bank. I scared me and Bill was walking through, and we walk in the dark a lot because once your eyes get adjusted to it, you can see. And I turned the corner, and I heard a noise, and the road comes down and banks off like 20 or 30 feet. And I was doing this right here, and I was walking, and I turned, and he was, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, you fine?
I turned, and there he was looking at me. He turned and jumped off the bank.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had some, I mean, this is just tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Right down there in Jackson's Gap.
Oh, yeah.
My whole life, and that's where I live again now. I got a house connected to the same part of land down there that I grew up on, but where I grew up in Camp Aska, it's on at least 1,000 acres or more, owned by Alabama Power. It's a special camp for children and adults or whatever.
Yeah.
But used to hear stuff in the woods down there, and it was unexplainable things. And I've camped and been in the woods my whole life, walked in the woods my whole life, and all that good stuff. And I've heard things walking in the woods and things breaking that weren't human. And I know people weren't in the woods.
Right.
But more recently, me and my wife, we do a lot of fishing, and we be out at night and, at creeks and stuff a lot. And we were up in a swampy area one night a while back, and heard a big rock flying to the mud water, and you could tell it was a rock.
Right.
And there was no one around us at all. We were in the middle of the woods. So I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
And we were fishing off the banks in the same Jackson's Gap. All this was in Jackson's Gap.
Yeah.
And we were fishing off the banks, and we had about 7 poles out, just sitting there with a lantern on. And all of a sudden, we heard a rock going to the water, and you can tell the difference between a big rock being thrown to the water and a fish.
Oh,
it had a big flooge noise, and you could tell it was a rock. And it was in a semi-populated area. There's people around, but there was a lot of open woods and a big hillside that I believe it came from. And no man could have threw a rock that big that far.
Oh, yeah.
So.
And one thing people don't realize about camp, especially in Alabama and in the southeast, is the creatures will watch children at them camps. They'll be on the edge and they'll watch kids. There was a lady up in Asheville, Alabama. She lived up behind the football field. And she'd watch a creature for months during spring practice, and then when Friday nights, she'd sit out there, see the eye shine, she'd watch watching the games.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're very curious creatures. I mean, they're gonna, like with you guys, a lot of times they'll throw rocks just to fuck with you.
Yep. She took off running. I was like, stop.
Don't run in the dark.
Running.
That Highway 22, through Tallapoosa, is a hotbed.
What is some of the towns around it?
Dadeville, Alex City.
Oh yeah. I've been to Alex City a lot. There's really the only place I haven't been to Alabama here recently is probably northeast or around Georgia and Lookout Mountain. But that's a very good hot spot in that Tallapoosa County clay. Of course, this is clay.
Jackson's Gap is in between Dadeville and Alex City, and that's where all those experiences I told you were about. And, they were actually on opposite sides of 280. Some of those experiences were.
Oh, yeah.
So.
And one thing about these creatures is there's a place in Margaret, which is I think it's close to Leeds, very populated area. There's creatures there.
I had when I was researching for this show tonight and researching your channel and talking to some people, I had a guy tell me that he knows two guys in Buxton that spotted one together. Both of them backed each other's story. Huge creature down on the river when they were down there fishing. They come around with just the trolling motor and surprised it.
Yeah, that's what me and my dad did.
And it took off through the woods.
Yeah.
And they swear that it was running on two legs instead of about 9 foot tall.
Yeah. Well, I believe, and this is my personal opinion based on lots of times in the woods and taking reports, there's probably 2 or 3 per every 30 miles. Very easy. And the easiest way to hide is plain sight. This place in Margaret is right in the middle of a subdivision. There's a little hunting club 2 miles long, 4 miles wide. And you can interview anybody in that community and they talk about hearing strange yells at night. And like places like this, a lot of times you'll have more actually concentrated sightings that would, in a town than the national forest because more people, see them. And
do you ever get the question, because the first thing that pops in my mind is, why don't we have a body, you reckon? That's kind of the big question for me, as a skeptic.
If you're in the woods a lot, and you come across let's say somebody's in this field, and they shoot a creature, boom, or they shoot a deer and it runs off and they don't find it. A lot of times, deer in the woods takes care of everything.
Yes.
I mean, you may come a month later and that deer be laying there. A month and a half later, it's not going to be there because scavengers. Because you've got all kind of little creatures that eat dead things.
They'll even eat the horns.
They will, and they basically take out the trash. So whenever somebody asks me why haven't they found the body, and that's why.
Right.
Yeah, but there's also logic that you can use with these things, and I think that's what gets me in the Bigfoot community trouble a lot. Is a lot of stuff in the Bigfoot community is bullshit.
Right.
Frankly, it's bullshit. You see a tree structure and it's like this, I can take you right now to 20 trees that's got X's, and it's natural.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you start seeing the tree twist, which I'll stop and show you, where something with opposable hands that's took and twisted. Can't explain that.
Right.
Our tree snaps up high, and then it snapped.
Right.
Have you ever? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Go ahead.
What about? I seen that news show on TV, that BFRO. I forgot what it is. That Finding Bigfoot.
Right.
What do you think about it?
I think Finding Bigfoot was good for the subject of Bigfoot because it exposed everybody and it showed people it was not a taboo subject to talk about.
Right.
I mean, I know Cliff, I know Bobo, I know all of them.
So you know them personally?
Oh yeah, I've talked to them many times, and it was good for the thing, just like ghost hunters. Remember Grant and Jay, all them.
12, 15 years ago.
I mean, it was good for,
getting people to talk about their experiences with the paranormal.
Right, and Bigfoot. Because one thing about Bigfoot, you got a hall full of doors. You got a Bigfoot door, and over here you got a ghost door, and over here you got a UFO door, and over here you got little people's door, and over here you got a dogman door, and it's all connected.
Yes.
And it's all in the same realm because you can't. But I have a lot of people that say, "Well, I believe in UFOs, but I don't believe in Bigfoot." Okay, well, tell me why.
Yeah.
And
because you can come as close to proving one as the other.
Yeah, and they're
with physical.
Right.
Now,
there's a lot of stuff in the woods that's unique. I personally do not think Bigfoot builds tree structures. I believe it's something else. I believe it's paranormal, actually. Because I've come down this road one time, 9 a.m. and nothing there. Come back 9:34, 9:40, and there's something there. Just wasn't there to see it. I believe it's paranormal. Now, do I believe a creature that is so elusive is going to make something that's going to tell people it's there? No, bullshit.
I wouldn't think so either.
But these creatures are very strange too. we'll crank up the car and we'll go down the road, and I get reports, even on this, every road in the forest, everywhere, of one, the couple drives right by it and it walks across the road and it stops and looks at them. Good look, y'all go take time looking at me, and then gets in the woods. And then if that happens, you're like, you kidding me? Really? I mean, I hunted, I put a lot of time.
Right.
Do that to me, buddy.
Right.
I got you on camera.
Right.
And so, but Finding Bigfoot did it did it good. You know, I know a lot of the guys that was on there, especially in the South. Creepy Mountain. I was introduced to Creepy Mountain about 6 months after they came. I had been on there before. Creepy Mountain is north of Chicago.
Now, explain it to us. I've never heard of that.
Creepy Mountain, it's over where, you know where the Ford place is? Coming out of Chicago? It's right in them group of woods. It's the Kihatchee Mountains. And there's a family group.
There's like a gravity anomaly there as well, isn't there? Right close by there.
On the right, yeah. But there's 2 or 3 family groups living in the mountains. It's called Creepy Mountain. It's actually a hunting club, Rocky Hills Hunting Club. And every member they've ever had. Did you read? That's good.
I heard a knock. Hope the camera got it.
One thing too, man, with doing this right here, is this sitting is the best way. They'll come right in. But so there's about probably about 10 or 15 in that little mountain range. It's a little more aggressive. But yeah, Creepy Mountain was a good place. I got involved a little bit after Finding Bigfoot, but Finding Bigfoot was a good for the genre.
Oh yeah.
Just like Ghost Hunters was. I'll tell a story. Of course, we're not going to talk about where this location where we're at now is, but there's a place probably within a mile of here where there's a lady that has the creatures on her property. And the first time I went to her property, she would call these creatures up by making a crow sound. And I don't know the association, how it got started. So me and my buddy was up here one day, got up here about 12:30 at night, and she stayed up all night all the time listening for them. And we knocked on her door, was going to go to her field, and she said, well, I'm going to call them up for you. And we were looking, it was probably about the first or second time we had been on her property, just kind of filling it out. And so she does this crow call, excuse me, and the creatures respond. And you hear them howling about a fourth of a mile. And every dog, she has a couple of houses live beside her, but every dog everywhere just lost it. And she said, what's this? And we were like, okay, what's she gonna do next? And she says, shut up. In a normal voice, and every dog within a mile of that place just shut up.
Oh wow.
And the creatures kept on. And then she said, shut up. And the creatures stopped.
Oh wow.
In that direction there.
Oh wow.
And so we went after that. My buddy's a police officer. He's like, what the heck was that, Jonathan? We were driving down below our house, and I was like, I don't know, never seen that before. And so we get down to this big old stream, and we're looking, and I get one on thermal actually there that night, and she came down, drove down in a golf cart, was talking to us, and every time that she would get by my buddy, it felt like somebody put an ice pick on him, and he had to move away from her, and it was fine. And before we left, she came back in, she let us out, and we looked in the woods, and there was a glowing ball just above the treetop. And she was like, well, I had somebody watching you, but I probably can call them home now. And she snaps her fingers, and the damn ball just goes boom, and disappears. It was the craziest thing.
Oh wow.
And it was really close to this. So when we go down this road, we're gonna probably really close to her. And yeah, it was had a good Bigfoot experience. Heard knocks, yells, got one on thermal. But we also got a bunch of other crazy stuff.
That is so awesome.
here. And basically we'll just let everything get used to us.
I love that storm coming in.
Hey, that will get them moving. The front coming in.
Hear anything, see anything, Corey?
Not yet. Gonna get 360 view though.
I'll do a yell for you guys. Now, what's funny about this yell is them people over here camping are gonna be like, "Oh shit, did you hear that?" And I may, if I get a Bigfoot report from that camp, I know.
You'll know it was you.
Oh, hell yeah, in a heartbeat. Okay, I'm gonna give you a good one. Now, Kev.
Yeah.
Something comes tearing through the woods, I'm gonna point at you, okay? Did you hear that?
I heard that. Back that way.
That's our friends. Well, you've heard of first Bigfoot, yeah.
Yes, sir.
And what's cool is the coyotes. So a lot of people believe, I don't know if I necessarily, I don't know, I'm kind of 50-50. Mr. White believes that sometimes like the coyotes be on something, and they'll let them kill it, and the Bigfoot will come up and
Take
them
it.
off.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then there's other people that believe it's a symbiotic relationship. They kind of work in tandem.
Right.
Like you just heard, you heard the creature, then you heard the coyotes. You know. And I'm constantly experimenting. Just, I've had them clap back. I've had them rock clack. And that's weird when you hear that stuff, where they're carrying a bunch of rocks with them.
Right.
I mean, because I'm by a bunch of rocks. They're not by rocks. A whistle.
All right, guys, we appreciate y'all joining us tonight on Finding Alabama. We got to meet the one and only Mr. Jonathan Odom, Alabama Bigfoot hunter. Y'all go check him out. Mr. Odom, thank you so much, man,
Anytime, my friend.
for getting us out here and showing us a good time.
We will do it again, I promise.
And we're gonna do this again sometime. Y'all stick around. Next week, we're heading where, Kev?
Crooked Creek Battlefield up by Coleman. It's where a little Civil War skirmish happened with straits raised through Alabama. So y'all come join us. It's gonna be interesting.
Out of here. That's it. That's a wrap, boys. double sanitizing now.
You can never be too clean.
This is true.
Corona's out there.